Welcome to It's a Woman's World, where we'll meet achieving women making a difference in our community. I'm Carolyn Bruna. Our guest is Karen Herson, the founder and president of Concepts Communications, a Bethesda-based firm that provides communications and public relations consulting services. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you so much.
You are welcome. And I have to say, a woman who works for you and is an advocate of both your work and your business recommended that we interview you. So it is nice to meet you, and I'm glad to have you here. You said that Concepts Communications is so unique that every day you strive to make a difference in people's lives. So you must be really proud of that. And actually, I was reading that your very first employee is still with you today. Not many people can say that, especially in business. So let me ask, what is it that inspires people to stay with you?
Well, thank you so much for having me. When I decided to go out on my own, my focus was to work on an issue every day that made a difference in people's lives. So the people who work for me are truly passionate about what they do. And I feel that they really feel that the work is rewarding and they really enjoy what they do every day. And we should all enjoy our work. So I think that's why they're still here with me today.
Yeah, well, it is obvious that you do inspire your employees, but now let me ask, so who inspired you?
Wow, that's a good question. I would say there's a few people who have inspired me. One person is absolutely my mother. From a young age, she was an entrepreneur. She had her own talk show when I was little, and I remember hearing her late at night on the typewriter, working on her on the show. And she really showed me what it meant as a woman to be working hard, and she knew what she wanted and she went right after it. Second is my father. He was also an entrepreneur. He had produced Broadway shows. He had a movie theater company. He decided he wanted to start a Golden Skillet fried chicken chain. He worked in real estate. He had so many different jobs. And his last job before he passed away was a professor at the local university in Boca Raton, Florida. And lastly, I would say my daughter. She inspires me every day. She is a sophomore at the University of Georgia. She's a great friend, a great listener, and an amazing daughter who inspires me to be the best person that I can be.
Wow, Karen, you've got three wonderful inspirations in front of you there. That's wonderful, really. So tell us a bit now about your path to leading and starting your company, Concepts Communications.
So I started working at the age of 17, and then I went to the school at the university, to George Washington University. And while I was there, I had great opportunities to have internships. And being in Washington, D.C., I got to work up on Capitol Hill, a variety of advertising firms. So really, by the time I graduated, I was already there. I kind of already knew how to work in the workplace, and this is obviously before the internet. So I understood how to research, how to talk to people. So I worked on a variety of consulting firms until one day I had the opportunity to start my own, and I just kept on going. So it's been really wonderful.
Oh, and so you're going, and you started out. And so kind of how did you start out, and what was your initial vision for it? And I believe you had said that changed. So tell us how that changed.
My first client, I still have to this day, and they had hired me to rewrite regulations into plain language so workers and employers could understand the laws that they need to comply with. So I got that contract as a sole source, and from that, people just started coming to my little cubicle over at the federal government agency I was working in, and kept on inviting me into meetings, and I saw an opportunity to create my own business. And then from there, I got on GSA schedule, which is what you do here in the Washington, D.C. area.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
and
know that. Okay.
And then we bid after contracts, but mostly the work that we have gotten has been word of mouth. People say, listen, you got to meet Karen and her staff. They know what they're doing, and their heart is in it, and they're very mission driven. And we're not a lot about small talk. And sometimes the best meeting is a 15-minute meeting, and we get the job done.
That's wonderful. As you speak, It reminds me, I've heard people say to start a business, find the traffic and stand in front of it. And from what you were saying now, that reminds me so much of that saying. See, that's exactly what you did. Is that correct?
That's exactly what I did. I had no intention initially of starting my own business, but these opportunities just came my way, and they were such great ones in terms of they truly did make a difference in people's lives. So you're right. I just stood right there and let it come my way.
Oh, well, that's wonderful. That's the best business to have because, you were inspired and you inspired other people, and then it just took off from there. It sounds fabulous.
Great. Thank you.
Mhm. What does Concept specialize in?
We are a communications firm that specializes in developing and implementing outreach campaigns that focus on the disability and the veteran community.
I see. And you're saying something about your staff and what they specialize in or what they do?
Yes, so my staff are amazing writers. We do a lot of social media engagement. We write speeches. We create websites that are accessible for people with disabilities. And we also make sure that anytime we have a conference, whether it be online or in person, that anyone can be able to participate in that conference.
Oh, that's really great. Yeah. I like the fact that it's inclusive. It sounds like you're very inclusive in your business. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's a huge part of what we do around, especially people with disabilities and that diverse population. And I think a lot of people miss talking about people with disabilities in the diverse community.
Yeah, that's true. So what kinds of or types of agencies hire you? And then what do you actually do for them?
So our main client is the U.S. Department of Labor Office of Disability Employment Policy at the federal level, and for that agency, we do a lot of communications strategy for them and implementation. So we develop websites, we develop speeches, we do the social media. We really try to engage also the employer community on the value of hiring people with disabilities is really our main focus.
So continue with that and tell me from your viewpoint, what are some of the values of hiring people with disabilities?
It's an interesting question that I obviously get a lot because this is the main focus of what we do. And my first answer to that is why not? Because I am a person with a disability. I have dyslexia. I have Raynaud syndrome. I'm a recent cancer survivor. So why wouldn't someone hire me with a disability? Now, I think because my disability is invisible, that people don't really think of me as a person with a disability. People usually think of a person with a disability as somebody in a wheelchair, somebody who's blind, or a more intensive intellectual disability. So when you think about a person with a disability, they really have to think outside the box, which brings a lot of creativity to your workplace. And also now, because of the pandemic, and now obviously we're past the pandemic, people with disabilities were already working in a hybrid type environment. They already knew how to work from home. So they also bring that to the table.
Well, that's interesting. That's a great point. And I do understand that disability and the more visible ones are what people think of right away. Yeah, you're correct on that. Gosh. So what are your core services?
Our core services are website development, speech writing, content of those websites, messaging development, public service announcements that we've created, you name it, anything to do around communications, but really helping people understand that if we create a communications campaign and implement it, we really want to show impact. I think it's very challenging sometimes to show the impact of what you do in communications. But now, because of social media, and now that you can actually track data, it's very different. So you are able to show that impact.
Mention some of the things that are impactful, would you?
In terms of impact is making a difference in the way somebody is thinking and having that almost that aha moment of, again, when you think about people with disabilities in the veteran community, like, oh, you know what? You're so right. And through social media, absolutely, I think it's helped us to really engage people and have that interaction that we never had before.
Aha. Okay. Would you give us an example of one of your communication strategies and maybe something that you implemented for one of your clients? Can you walk us through a strategy and an implementation?
Sure.
Okay.
One project that we've had for many years is called E.A.R.N. And as you know, in the federal government space, we have a lot of acronyms. So E.A.R.N. stands for Employer Assistance Resource Network on Disability Inclusion. And the goal of that campaign is to educate employers on the value of hiring someone with a disability, which is a huge mouthful. So how do we do that, right? We create a website. We create a social media campaign. We also focus on what does it mean to have somebody with a disability in your workplace, and what do you need to focus on? So the hiring, the retention, and also the advancement of somebody with a disability. And so the areas that we focus on are around assistive technology, around accessibility, and any of the accommodations that aren't always so dramatic that people think about. And the reality is 1 in 5 people in the United States has a disability.
When you're talking to the employees, do you ever bring somebody with a disability with you and have them talk to the employer as well, and perhaps their employees?
Absolutely. I think the best way we learn is through a success story. So understanding people's challenges or what they don't know. And again, I think people fear the unknown. So what we're trying to do is make people not so scared of the unknown. And what does it mean for as a person to have a disability? Actually, obviously, my company, we employ 10 people, and then we have about 25 consultants, and quite a few people have disabilities in our workspace.
I see. And so you'll bring some of them with you as well. Do you ever have the person with the disability speak, or rather than you just explaining to the employer, or have the employer and that person discuss things during meetings?
Absolutely. Yeah, if they're comfortable. I think that's a big part of it. And I think even though, again, someone like me who has a disability, they sometimes say, do you really? And obviously the answer is yes. But I think with all of these celebrities talking about mental health awareness is a huge area, and that is a disability. People with addiction issues, that is defined as a disability. So when you really talk about what it means to have a disability, again, I think our goal is to raise awareness about what that means.
I have a question that I've just thought about. I hope I can throw it in here. After an employer hires someone that you perhaps recommended, somebody with a disability, do you follow up on that person at all? Are you still involved, or do you then let the involvement go?
No, we actually don't do the matching of a person with a disability. We are just hired to create awareness. And then if people need supports or assistance, we then guide them to the resources that we've developed.
Oh, I see. Well, that's all very interesting and exciting. And as you say, more and more people are discussing this today and more aware of being inclusive. So it's a fabulous business that you have and what you're doing. We're going to break for a minute. We'll take a short break for a public service announcement, and we'll return with Karen telling us more about her business and its focus on disability inclusion.
I'm a wife,
a sister,
and a grandfather.
I'm an office clerk.
I'm a research analyst,
dance fitness instructor,
actor.
I'm a copywriter.
I'm a veteran.
I have lupus,
cerebral palsy.
I'm blind.
And I'm working in a job I love.
Because I was given a chance
to contribute my skills and talents.
To show that my disability
is only one part of who I am.
Who I am.
Who I am.
At work, it's what people can do that matters.
For more information, visit whatcanyoudocampaign.org.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Karen Herson, founder and president of Concepts Communications, a Bethesda-based firm that focuses on the employment of people with disabilities and the veteran community. Karen, let's talk a bit more about disability inclusion. What does that mean exactly, and how does it work for your business?
What that means is including people with disabilities in your diverse workforce. And I think so many people are talking about diversity and inclusion, but they're forgetting that people with disabilities are part of that community. So for our community and for what we do for a living, obviously, because we do so much outreach and education around wanting people to hire people with disabilities, it's really infused, obviously, in our company and in everything that we do. And we realize that people fear the unknown, I think, as I said before. So our goal is education and awareness, and not to bring people down, but to lift people up and to have them really understand what it means to hire someone with a disability. And it could be as little as an accommodation in terms of that person wishing to work from home, which obviously a lot of people work from home now, or coming in later in the day because they have a traumatic brain injury, and the way that their brain works, it's if they work after 11 a.m., they'll be a more efficient worker. And so it's those little types of accommodations that really make a difference.
That's so interesting, because you're right. Right now, particularly, somehow, we've really gotten to the point where the word inclusion is all over the place. And you hear about different, I don't know, races, sex, whatever, about inclusion, but you very rarely hear about the word disability inclusion. Yeah,
absolutely
interesting. Yeah. When we spoke on the phone, you also mentioned that you were asked to create a public education campaign targeting employers and encouraging them to hire veterans with traumatic brain injuries or post-traumatic stress disorder. So you've developed the campaign called America's Heroes at Work. So would you explain that campaign for us, please?
Yes, and that is one of my most favorite campaigns that we ever worked on, because we had amazing leadership at the U.S. Department of Labor at the time, and we had an idea. And it was the whole idea around creating a website to help employers hire veterans with traumatic brain injury and or post-traumatic stress disorder. So we created a resource. We work with HHS, with DOD, with the VA, with all these other organizations to help create this great resource. And then we wanted to know, does this website help anybody? So they funded a pilot project to have us actually partner employers with people with traumatic brain injury and or post-traumatic stress disorder to see if they were successful or ready to work in the workforce. So that was a very unique project in terms of a communications campaign that became something that was really, truly tangible to see if what you create works. Because, you know, you see all these beautiful websites, they look like they do amazing work, but do they? So it was really wonderful to see, you know, in some instances, and, you know, you learn through your failures and through your successes. So we got to see that some of the things that were on the website were helpful, some not so helpful. So we were able to tweak it to help make sure that employers really understood the value of hiring someone with a traumatic brain injury or post-traumatic stress disorder, which, as we know, is all very much a mouthful. All of these acronyms is a lot to say and a lot to take in.
Right. You know, and I'm thinking too, you probably had to explain to employers exactly what post-traumatic stress disorder is and traumatic brain injuries, what they actually consist of or are, before the people can understand to then want to hire these types of people and what they bring that's positive to their workplace, you know?
Absolutely. And it's interesting because in the news, you always see the negative over the positive. And with TBIs and PTSD, sometimes you see the negative outcomes of what happens, but there's a lot of positives in terms of employing veterans with disabilities.
Yeah, that's great. Your company Concepts also has produced 4 nationally distributed television public service announcements. And since here at MMC.org, we're a public service channel, we've actually aired one of your public service announcements at our break. So I hope people have noticed that. We've just seen that one. So would you tell us what message your public service announcements convey?
Yes, first of all, thank you so much for playing one of our PSAs.
Oh, we're happy to do that. Yeah, you're welcome.
And the campaign is called the Campaign for Disability Employment. And it really focuses on what you can do that matters, whether you have a disability or don't have a disability. And I think that's really the importance of that public service announcements that we create on behalf of the U.S. Department of Labor. So our most recent one is around mental health awareness and the whole value of employers and supervisors understanding what they can do to support their employee in the event that they are going through any challenges.
Yeah, that's great. On a different topic, you were just appointed to the Montgomery County, Maryland Commission on People with Disabilities. So that's quite an honor. And tell us about that, please.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm so blessed to be part of the commission and be a commissioner. I've been in the space of employment of people with disabilities for so many years, but I never really did anything with where I live. And I've lived in Montgomery County for over 20 years. So it's great to finally have a voice in the community and also to talk to other like-minded individuals who want to spread awareness and support for people with disabilities in Montgomery County.
Yeah. Actually, a friend of mine who actually has cerebral palsy was just finishing, I believe, is it a 5-year or 10-year commission on the People with Disabilities Commission?
It's only a couple-year commitment, and then you can renew for another couple of years.
That's what she did then. So she's just finished it. I'll have to introduce you to her sometime.
That would be great.
Okay. What advice would you give to young people starting out on their careers?
To listen, to not be afraid, to try new opportunities, and to do something that they're passionate about. I think when you graduate college and you know your parents or you are saying, I have to have a job, I have to make an income, I think that's all great, but you take your job, and if you're not enjoying it or feeling passionate about what you do, it's okay to change. And again, we all fear, the unknown and what should we do next? And if you're miserable, it's okay to make that change and go after something else.
That's true. I always tell people in college to make sure that your career has side careers or things that you can take off on, that you might be more interested in case that doesn't pan out. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Since we are women's world, are there things that women particularly can do right now as they begin their careers to help them succeed?
I think it's important to support one another. I think I have a great group of women. I'm part of the Entrepreneurs Organization of Washington, D.C., and in particular the women's group that helps us empower one another. And again, I would give the advice that I would give a young person, to listen, to learn, to also make sure that you have a voice and you are able to express what you like, what you don't like, and what you're passionate about.
Yeah, that sounds great. You were telling me a little story about your dad thinking that when you went to college, you were going to get your MRS. Why don't you tell us that?
Yes. So when my father, who has passed away many years ago, when I went he sent me to the George Washington University, and he was just hoping I would find a nice boy to get married to. And when I graduated, I did not. And I was very passionate about wanting to work and wanting to stand on my own. And he did send me to college to get my MRS degree, to find me a nice boy to take care of me. Right. And it was really interesting. He initially said, I think you could probably be a secretary, or you could sell cars because people really like talking to you. So I thought that was very fascinating, of those two different kind of career paths that he thought for me. And as he got older and saw that I did this all on my own in terms of forming the company and figuring out how to do it, and I've learned so much about what you don't know, you outsource. So I finally have a full-time CFO working for the company. And again, I started in 1996 and now it's 2023, and it's incredible that it's still going on. And this will probably be our best year we've ever had. And most of the work we get is, again, through word of mouth, which is also phenomenal. We just started doing some work at the state level and all these working with vocational rehabilitation, again, around hiring people with disabilities. But I know today, and when my father was passing, he's so proud, and he's so, because I can't believe that I said that to you back in 1990, like what I thought you would be able to do and what you're doing to this day.
Yeah. Well, the time has gone on and we've transitioned to women doing more things and being more independent. And yeah, and I'm sure he was very proud of you. Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Oh, certainly. How can people get in touch with you?
If people want to get in touch with me, I would love for them to email me. It's Herson, HERSON, at concepts, CONCEPTS, Mary.com.
You had talked about your key principle of leadership. Just tell me that quickly.
My key principle of leadership is to guide them and then let people go. I think I've learned that I really need to educate and then let them spread their wings and see how they do. And then, if they're not doing so great, I can pull it back a little bit and kind of educate along the way. I think for what I do for a living, it's all about people who come to and who we hire are so passionate about what they want to do. And I don't want to stifle that passion and that creativity. So I love the idea of just letting them go and obviously hiring the right people for the work that are the most qualified.
Yeah, I love that because I feel it creates ownership in people. And so they feel an integral part of the company. I love your concept of principle of leadership. So now for the last, what do you want people to remember about concepts communications?
In a one word, passion. But we are built on wanting to make a difference in people's lives and also wanting to make sure that the organization or the company that hires us is making a difference in people's lives, whatever that may be. I think how do people define making a difference in someone's life, right? Yeah. It could be someone in the auto industry that's fixing a car. That's making a difference in somebody's life, right? Helping someone get a job. That's making a difference in somebody's life. So I think really understanding what does that mean? I don't think people need to think they have to save the world. But that one element is so important.
That's wonderful, Karen. Thank you so much. I know you definitely do, I'm sure, make a difference in many people's lives. Thank you so much for coming on my show.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. I hope you've enjoyed meeting our guest, Karen Herson, as much as I have, and I hope you also learned, along with me, the importance of including people with disabilities in the workplace. If you know a woman contributing to your community who might be a great guest for our show, please email us. We're womensworldtv@aol.com. Remember, it's a woman's world. I'm Carolyn Bruna. See you next time.